You should be in good shape.
I'm sick.
You ready, Captain? You got her turned on? Coach, would you lead us in the pledge tonight, please?
I would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd remain standing for a minute, please. Heavenly Father, we gather again tonight and ask for your guidance. Mark tells us to love the Lord with your whole heart, your whole soul, your whole mind, and every ounce of your strength. And with this in mind, there should be no time for negative thoughts. In reflection these past few days, these words from Mark made me also think of our good friend, our colleague, and director, who's not here tonight, Nathan Coy. He has truly given his heart and soul, and certainly every ounce of strength to this job. And while we will miss him, we all wish him well in his next adventure. Lord, bless Nathan as he starts his next chapter in life, and Lord, we ask for this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Kathy, roll please.
Carter. Here. Walter.
Here.
Powell.
Here.
Barstow.
Here.
Hayes. Here. Pickens. Here. Lee.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum present, and so Jess knows what meeting this is. This is November 5th, the regular council meeting. First on the agenda is citizens' comments. We've got a nice full house tonight with a lot of folks. Glad you're here. We'll start out, Jamie, would you announce and introduce our new employee, please?
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Toya Devine. She just snuck in under the wire. She started with us, I guess she's been, what, 3 weeks now?
Yes,
3 weeks?
yes.
Come on up, come up here so we can all see.
Come on. Oh, yeah, you get to stand at the podium.
I didn't know it was on. Hello, everyone. I'm Toya Devine, and I just started. I'm the accounting clerk, and so thank you all and Jamie for welcoming me, and I'm excited.
She comes to us by way of CareWorks. It's like hot management. It's a BWC.
Absolutely. So, I can bring a little experience from that with our workers' comp.
Okay, congratulations. We're glad you're here. And you don't have to stay. You can go home.
Oh, okay. But I'll stay a little while. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We lose one, we gain one. So I wish Nate was here tonight, but doggone it. Okay, let's see. Ooh, this is a good one. The recognition of our Licking Heights football team. I have a proclamation, so everybody gather around the podium there. Should I take some pictures? Very good. This is getting to be what we would call a good habit.
Yeah.
A bad habit. Okay, all right.
It'd be good to join them.
We get pictures then?
Absolutely.
Dr. Wagner's had some pressing engagement tonight, but we do have the coach, the football players, and one of the cheerleaders, so. Well, you'll take that, won't you? Okay, all right. Whereas, it is one of the responsibilities and privileges of the mayor of the city of Pataskala, Ohio, to recognize events of outstanding worthiness. And whereas the Licking Heights Hornets and Watkins Warriors participate in an annual football game called the Battle for Broad Street, and the 2018 edition of the Battle for Broad Street was played on Friday, October 12th. Licking Heights Hornets were victorious in the 2018 game by a score of
42 to, or
46 to 27, they forgot already. Okay, thank God I had it on tape. 46 to
Were you
27.
there?
They just move on to the next game, right?
That's, I'm
Coach?
telling you,
That's
that's
the way to
what
go.
I'm
All right, very good. Whereas, the road next to Pataskala City Administration Building will remain named Hornets Way for another year in recognition of Licking Heights' victory in 2018. And now, therefore, I, Michael W. Compton, Mayor of the great city of Pataskala, Ohio, do hereby present this proclamation to congratulate the Licking Heights Hornets 2018 winner of the Battle for Broad Street.
Hey, Mayor. Hey, Mayor, we're gonna get Mel and Tim in a picture
Okay,
if
sure.
everybody can
Yep.
look this way.
Yep. Why don't you guys hold that?
Gentlemen, every year you have no idea how much fun I have with this.
You guys can
Mr. Reagan and I get
let's
an
tighten
ongoing
things
bet
down.
every year, so.
I'm gonna turn sideways, guys.
Sorry, Tim, how long's it been since I've had to wear a Warriors jersey?
4 years now.
All right, 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna take a couple. Very good. Congratulations.
We don't want to.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, we take a lot of pride in getting the opportunity to represent Pataskala every fall. The Battle of Broad Street for Broad Street really means a lot to us and the boys. It's something to look forward to every year. I enjoy having the opportunity to lead the Licking Heights football team. I'm very proud of these young men back here. I feel blessed to have a quality program that we do, and it has very little to do with me. It has to do with the guys that coach for me and these young men. I think one of the things that really shows you the kind of program you have isn't necessarily wins and losses, but what young men go on to become. And I just want to take a minute and point out that Mr. Crawford over here, he played safety for me and wide receiver in high school. He's probably one of the best captains I've ever had. And it's guys like him that have helped put a foundation in place. And just real quick, I thought this would be a neat forum to do it because they don't even know it yet. But Mitchell Coltis and Will Chapman both earned honorable mention All-CL honors this year. Spencer Venkin earned second team All-LCL honors. And CJ and Daniel and Jake are all lucky enough to earn first team All-LCL honors this year.
Enjoy that, and yes, you do have to go home and do your homework. Thank you.
We do have one more comment to add. We had rivalry week for the first time we created with walk-ins, and we hosted all of the Licking Heights walk-ins games that week for the fall, and it was a very nice thing between both schools. I think both schools enjoyed that. One other note that this victory is extra sweet for us. It was Coach Waters' 100th win. So that was his 100th victory.
And I'm not one to stir the pot, but Mrs. Carter wanted me to give you a hanger to keep for that jersey and just put it in your closet. I don't know what she meant by that. But
As always, Coach, it'll come back to you wash immediately.
Doesn't he look good though? I mean,
So thank you all for having us tonight.
Thank
And we
you.
look forward to next year.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Congratulations.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Make sure you send me those for Dr. Wagner.
yes, ma'am. I'm all over it.
Okay, we also have, I believe it's Tyler. Come on up, Tyler. One of our Eagle Scout project guys here that, how many Eagle Scout projects has your family done so far?
I think we're right up there with Coach Waters. We're probably around 100.
100? Okay, very good. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So Tyler, give me your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak tonight on your project.
Hi, my name is Tyler Hampshire. I live at 13318 Havens Corners Road. So I've been a Pataskala resident my entire life, and I was looking forward for years to doing a project in Pataskala like my brother did. He fixed 2 cemeteries. But after visiting Haydenville several times, I decided that they could use a project a lot more than Pataskala. I'm already seeing several of the projects around the Pataskala area, so it looks like they've got a lot of help from that. but as far as I know, I don't know of any that have happened in Haydenville. So we decided to fix up it's a park there for a historic canal lock. So after seeing around the area, there's a lot of historic landmarks there that are not being maintained well because the economy's not very good down there. So anything we can do to help save this one is very helpful. It's a very nice area. So it says in the background, I went there first in November of 2016. That's when I started seeing many of these amazing landmarks. And I saw a lot of stuff there that you don't see around here, just stuff that, like the canal locks, and there's a lot of bridges and stuff like that that are historic, because that area used to have a lot of industry. So in Haydenville, there is a canal lock that is lock number 17. It's the Wright lock, built by the Wright family, and they've owned it for 5 generations. And now it's public land from the Hocking County Historical Society, and they maintain the park. But they don't have much money to make the park really great, but it is still public land. So we decided to make it a really nice park so that the public there can use it and really enjoy it. So it shows the location there. It's right off of 33. It's in an amazing location, right next to an exit. So it's in the perfect spot for a nice park for people stopping for lunch and stuff, anything like that. It's a really great location. So the overview, we're actually almost done with the project now. It's got a few days of work left and then it'll be finished. We did pull the weeds and clean up the trees and it looks amazing. The picnic tables are placed and chained down to the ground so people can't remove them. The park grills were installed yesterday and they are placed next to the picnic table. The new sign the foundation was poured today and the signboards get placed tomorrow. And the new trash cans get placed tomorrow. So if you see the first picture where it says we remove those weeds are removed and it looks amazing. The water is a lot lower through the lock now because of the season and it looks amazing too. The second picture where it shows those trees look like normal trees again. The weeds around the bottom that were taking over are all gone now. It looks great. That stump is gone and the area is regraded around the rock. It was actually displacing the sandstone blocks and it looks amazing now. That stump was huge. The pile of sticks is gone, all the weeds are pulled, and grass seed will be planted on that hillside there next to the lock. The picture there, you can see the one picnic table that was there in the background. There's now 3 with grills next to them. The spot where the flowers are in the 5th picture, that the flowers are gone for the year, but the sign is placed, and the boards get placed tomorrow on the sign with the text. So you can see the plan in there. It shows what we did, and all that's pretty much done. The trash cans, we have the last 2 steps to do on there. So it's mostly completed. So this project is just really important because a lot of these historical landmarks are lost. There's 3 locks on that stretch of road within 5 miles. One of them was a state park, and when they rerouted the highway, the state decided to abandon it as a state park. So now it's no longer maintained by the state, but the county, and they don't have the money to do it. The other lock, they paved a road through it. It's completely gone. You can actually see the sides of the block sticking out from under the highway, but it's completely gone. And then the one that we fixed up is in the best condition. It's more important than the other 2 because it has an aqueduct right next to it, which is a very uncommon form of a bridge to carry water over something. So there's a creek that passes under the canal. So that's very rare. There are only 2 aqueducts on the entire Hocking Canal, and this is one of them. Any questions?
So, how did you do monetarily? Did you come out all right?
Oh yeah, we came out way over, and the rest of the money will be donated to the Historical Society, the Hocking County Historical
And who will
Society.
continue to maintain this then, once you move on from your Eagle Scout project?
The Hocking County Historical Society currently mows it. They just didn't have the money to put in the additional stuff. So they will continue to maintain the additional things we are installing.
Well, congratulations. I would like to see some pictures.
Yeah, we've taken a lot. I just didn't put them in this presentation.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, moving on now. I think we'll, let's see, first up is Mr. Rob Platt. We have 3 speakers tonight. You know the address, you know the drill. Name and address, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Oh, well, thank you. I just apologize to April. I told her she was going before me since she was on the agenda.
She is on the agenda.
I'm happy to step aside.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Rob Platt, I'm 371 Woodside Drive. So I was here last week before you as a concerned resident. I'm not going to rehash what I shared with you. I might part of it, but tonight I'm going to speak as the BZA chair. We'll be cautious in some of the things that I share, but you all, I assume, are aware that I, as the BZA chair, and then ultimately the entire BZA board, received a letter from the Licking Heights School District. I apologize, I didn't print it out. Thursday, I think it was, November 1st. It was dated for October 31st. In so many words, basically saying that the school district was not subject to zoning. A few different things, basically said people on the zoning were not subject to it, we're not gonna follow it. So a couple of things I wanna make clear and really to ask of the council tonight. And first of all, to follow up what I said last week, the school district was the applicant in a conditional use application that was ultimately denied by the BZA, and we gave our findings of facts. The letter that Dr. Wagner drafted does have some, we'll say maybe some things that aren't exactly true in it, or accurate. But be that as it may, it was addressed to me inappropriately so, because the application goes to the BZA, it doesn't go to City Council. The appeal that they filed in Common Pleas Court and Judge Branstall's court is an appeal of the administrative action of the BZA, not of appeal or a lawsuit of anything that you guys would be involved with. I'm happy that you didn't take any action last week, because I think that G3 was bad enough and you put yourself in a bad enough situation with that. Glad to see that you guys didn't go any further with that. I guess the initial concern is, this was before the BZA in August. We tabled it, came back in September 11th and made a decision. The school district filed their appeal September 14th. Today is now November 5th. The BZA and I, as the chair, have had zero input from our legal counsel on how to move forward on this. Now, if it was truly a lawsuit standing in court, wouldn't you think that we would have some sort of legal direction or contact or direction? It's not a litigation, it's not a legal lawsuit, it's an administrative appeal, but I argued that last week too. But my concern is we've had zero direction from what is supposed to be our legal counsel, also known as your law director. I contacted the staff, Mr. Fulton. I don't know, we'll call it a week afterwards. I was at a conference, so I could look up the date and tell you, I just don't have it in front of me. And he had not received anything from Mr. Fulton at that time. Mr. Fulton, Mr. Zetz, I had left a voicemail at Mr. Zetz's office and received no call back. So the BZA has had no direction on what are the next steps to take. I did notice, and of course last week I spoke on the filing on the 14th and the 17th. I didn't know those were combined. Again, we've not had any contact or legal direction. But I did notice on the court records today that and again, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know how these things work exactly. Administrative report, I think, or something, a schedule was filed, I believe, by Branstall to get that submitted. I think it was administrative report, by the 12th, 10 days from when it was filed. The next BZA meeting is the 13th. So we don't have, I don't know what we're supposed to file. We don't have any direction. We've not had any questions of the board. So I guess the two things I'm asking the board for tonight is I believe that, as I think I shared it last week, maybe I didn't, with the current law director serving as your legal counsel and directing you to enter into an agreement last week, advising you that you could, that would ultimately, I guess, circumvent the decision of the BZA without having consulted the BZA. Mind you, there's been no, since September 11th, there's been no consultation of the BZA. Hey, why did this get denied? What can we do? Nothing has been asked of us from legal staff, from the city administration, or the staff, except the phone call I made to Scott. So I guess my concern is on the behalf of the BZA, because it's an independent board from you guys.
1 minute, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to see council assign independent counsel, city council assign independent legal counsel to the BZA immediately, because we have a time-sensitive issue of something due on the 12th. I'm not even sure what it is, but we have a BZA meeting on the 13th. I assume Jamie would have to find the money, but I'm sure you guys could figure it out. But I believe there's a conflict if Mr. Zetz tries to represent us, continues on, and he sure failed in doing a good job at that, at the very least. Secondly, I'd like a little reassurance from council. It was made clear to me that if the BZA were to hold a special meeting outside of a regular meeting, we would not be compensated for it. And I would like some reassurance from this council that if the BZA needs to hold a special meeting for the Licking Heights School District case or anything else, that the board would be compensated accordingly. I believe that that's your intent, is to compensate people for their service. So I believe the BZA does a great job, but I don't believe we're being represented correctly. There's been a failure on representation and communication. I think you have the ability to fix that, but I think we need independent counsel, separate and apart from Mr. Zetz, and looking for a little bit of reassurance on your support of the BZA, even though they're separate boards. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, we're not gonna get into,
I understand.
Yeah.
But, okay.
point
Thank
taken,
you.
point
Thank you.
taken. Thank you, sir. Sarah, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah McGuire. My address is 321 Mulberry Street, Pataskala. I'm actually here to represent the Pataskala Lions Club. I'm just talking about the cookie walk. Yes, it is time to talk about Christmas. Sorry. We have had a really successful start. The deadline to register was Friday, and we have almost 70 businesses participating. So it's a nice increase of 12 from last year. So we're very proud of that. We're proud of all of the different organizations and businesses and churches and citizens and school kids that are all represented in this community event. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. We are again going to be offering this to the first 400 families, first come, first serve. Although this year we have 20 so far of the 70 stops have offered to do extra cookies, so that anyone who does not get a bag will still get almost 2 dozen cookies. So that's a good thing. We're adding more food trucks. We appreciate the city allowing us to close the road because that addressed our safety concerns. And the parade is shaping up to be bigger and better this year, so we're just really excited, and I'll probably come back the next meeting and give another update, but just wanted to.
So each business will cook or make how many cookies?
400.
So 400 times 70 is 28,000 cookies.
Yeah, and 20 of them are doing 600.
Very good.
So.
All right. Any questions for Sarah?
Sorry, the date is December 1st.
December 1st. Yep.
Yes.
December 1st and 2:30ish.
The cookie walk is from 3 to 6.
Okay.
We had to go to 3 hours to get that many stops in, and then the parade starts at 6. So, hope to see you all there. Just saying.
Thank you,
Very good.
Sarah.
Yes.
Yes.
Just, Sarah, point of clarification, when can people start lining up to get bags?
We've never really set a time. We actually set up our lines for them to line up in about an hour before. There were people there 2-3 hours before the event last year to get in line, so I mean, if they want to stand in the cold, more power to them, I guess. But yeah, about an hour before, probably 2 o'clock, we'll have the line set up, so.
Very good. Anything else? Yep, it's turned into something cool, so thank you very
Yes.
much, and I'll be there for
Really
sure. Yep.
Thank
All
you
right,
very much.
thanks. Yep, come back and give us another update.
Okay.
All right, anybody else wish to speak tonight? All right, turn it over to our council president, Tim Hicken, for, I think, we have a personnel board of review interview, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, we do. As a reminder to council, the PBR appointments are council-made. So, I'm, being president of council, I'll run this part of the evening. I wanted to say that, Ms. Begro, correct? Ms. April Begro, as she steps up to the podium, I would, remind council that we will have more, of these, interviews, at the next meeting. However, she could not make that date, so we're grateful that she could make time out tonight. I met with her beforehand, and basically, I think we're all fairly accomplished at this. I thank her very much for getting us her resume, and I think, hope everybody has had a chance to see it. This is kind of an informal interview process. If any council member saw something in there, or in what you're about to say, they'll ask you any question that seems applicable to them. We'll do it just by round robin. And with that said, I'll turn it over to you for a little bit. Give us a little bit of your background, and start with your name and address.
Sure. Good evening. My name's April Begro. I live at 118 Woodside Drive. Some background. I'm guessing you've all seen my resume. So I currently work for the city of Reynoldsburg as their clerk of council, which is part of the reason why our meetings are on Monday nights also, but we only meet the second and fourth Monday. So I do thank you for allowing me to attend this evening on an off night. I do, for this position, I did get permission, I did check with our city attorney to make sure there were no conflicts of interest, that sort of thing. And the reason I want to, why I applied for this position is because there's less of a chance of having a conflict of interest than if you were to do any kind of zoning or that sort of thing. And I'm a local government nerd, so, yeah. When it comes to volunteerism, this is kind of where I directed my attention. So I am familiar with how local government works, charters, code, that sort of thing.
That's pretty good. I'll start off with a question. Have you done anything like this before?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. We've lived in Pataskala for 4 years. We moved here 14. And so I've never looked before, and then we just kind of discussed about doing something with my own community, and here we are.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Why don't we start down here? As I told you, don't take no questions as anything bad.
Oh,
Lots
no,
of times
I'm
people have
fine.
educated themselves.
The more we talk, the more I'll.
So start with anything
Fire away.
from Mr. Lee.
Not right now?
No? All right.
Mr. Powell?
No questions.
Mr. Wolf?
I have no questions. Thank you very much for applying.
Sure. Thanks.
That kind of gets back to me, but I'm going to give everybody a chance before I ask any follow-up. Mr. Barstow? Thanks for applying. I don't have any questions.
You
Ms.
know,
Carter?
I love your enthusiasm.
I know.
I can't stop smiling. I would hug you, but that's weird. So I'm just excited to see enthusiasm
We
in
had
our
a
community.
seminar Friday on public speaking too, so I'm like trying to do all
Hey,
of
you're
these
great.
tips and
Have
tricks.
to change out of your pocket.
Right,
And of course I forgot everything I was gonna really say in between my seat and here, so now I'm making things
Normal.
up.
I appreciate your enthusiasm and like you just spoke to my heart, just getting involved in your local community. You may not know what you're doing, but you're willing to learn and I appreciate that.
Right.
I guess that last question maybe falls to me. One question I had was, I did review your resume. It seemed quite lengthy and quite accomplished. Have you had to make personnel decisions in any part of your current
I have.
or past?
I have. I do supervise an employee. I'm the only, myself and an assistant are the only employees of council. So it's myself and one other person. So I have had to release assistants, which is never a good thing. But that's really, and well, I have participated in the hiring process also. So I've done the good and the bad part. But not on a civil service side, obviously, we're appointed.
Any other questions? Mayor, do you have one?
You know, I read your resume, it's very complete, and yes, you have lived in Pataskala for 4 years.
Matt, come on, I write things, I don't add them up.
No, I'm good, thank you.
With that said, as I stated to you, and for just the knowledge of everybody present, I think the other interviews will take place at the second meeting in November, and probably look for council to make motions and recommendations at that time.
I'll be around.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, very good, sir. Introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Higgin. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Consent agenda passes. I've got nothing right this minute. Mr. Higgin?
I do have a couple of things, but you know what, I'm gonna save them because I think in the end, I'd like to have a discussion about, the Licking Heights issue. I don't know that, but it's not necessarily a report, so.
Okay.
I'll pass it on.
Mr. Zetz?
I have nothing, thank you, Mayor.
Mr. King?
Mayor, thank you. I just have 2 quick items. Unfortunately, Nate could not make it this evening. He's on a college visit with his son. He was hoping to get back. As you all know, this is his last week, so if you get an opportunity, I just ask that you reach out to him and give him his best. I know he's excited about his new opportunity, but he's also torn about leaving. Hope to get to spend some time with him this week, have lunch with him, and bid him good luck. Certainly gonna be big shoes to fill. We've started interviews for the position, but you know, he's been a great asset for the community, has brought that department from it being, what I'll say, in shambles to where it is today, and has done a tremendous job. So he leaves it in good hands, and I think it'll continue to be just that, based on the work that he's done. The only other thing I have is housekeeping. A week from today, we will be closed for in observance of Veterans Day, and we will post that accordingly. So happy to answer any questions council may have.
Anything for BJ? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Nicholson?
Thank you, Mayor. You have all of a copy of my report. 2 things I want to highlight. We're going to be asking to amend the budget, proposed budget, 2019 budget. There were a couple of debt service items that haven't yet finalized. They didn't get picked up in the original budget proposal. And I don't want to steal Lanier's thunder, but we also were awarded a grant, and so we need to reflect that in the budget as well. And I'll let him talk about the grant during his presentation. We have the first reading on a supplemental. It's the year-end housekeeping supplemental where we move stuff around, make sure that we have an appropriate funding for everything. I think at the end of the day, we reduced spending. I think it was between $40,000 and $50,000 reduction. That we were able to pull some stuff back, but it puts things in the right place. We are working on the annual insurance, the property casualty liability insurance renewal. The department heads should get back to me fairly shortly with all their review of the assets under coverage. Then we'll get them back to underwriting. I would expect we'll have something back after the first of the year. We'll bring it to you either first meeting in February or the mid-January meeting. The other last thing is that we'll have our open enrollment for health insurance in December, and we're preparing for that, and we're moving forward. That's all I have.
Yeah.
Jamie, I've got just a quick question on the NatureWorks grant, and this has to do with the money side of it rather than the part that Lanier, I'm sure, is going to brief us on. In your explanation that you've written up here, I was able to find these different previous budgeted items. Obviously, the Liberty Park Bridge was already done, so that was coming out. That's the $10,000, the 18-001. The question I guess I have is on the 16-008, which is Liberty Park lot expansion. The plan that Lanier's showing he's showing that expansion already completed. Are we sure that we can take that out and, go ahead, BJ.
Yeah, that expansion, it's not showing it already completed, that is part of the plan that would be done as part of this with in-house, services.
Okay, I'm just making sure, the drawing shows it as existing. It shows it as a, existing parking extension. Just making sure we don't miss something when we're going through this.
No, and that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's part of the, in-kind, in-house, improvements that we're gonna be able to make with that, using our own forces like we did at, Municipal Park.
Okay. Then the follow-up to that is, on the actual grant, which I understand is $68,000 plus or minus, and we are taking a $35,000 line item, making it $91,000. Where does the additional $13,000 go? If we're assuming that there was $35,000 worth of work that we were doing, now we have $22,000 worth of work because it's a matching side. Is the grant essentially doing that additional work, or I'm just making sure we don't lose budgeted items?
No,
because we got a grant,
right.
essentially.
Grant accounting, it gets kind of convoluted because you have to reflect the entire value of the work, regardless of who pays for it. So that's how you get it on your books as an asset. So the total cost is, was it $91,000? So we have to reflect that, because that's what will be spent to the contractor, whether we pay for our portion or we get reimbursed for the other. So you're reflecting the $91,000 of expenditure, but you have, on the revenue side of the equation, you have the $68,000 that comes in grant. So the net is that the city pays the 22. So yeah, in essence, we would have paid 35 for the project. We're gonna end up paying on our part 22. So the 13 basically is getting shifted
Getting
the
taken
grant.
up by the grant.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else for Jamie? Very good. Mr. Haynes?
Thank you, Mayor. A few project updates tonight. First of all, the 2018 ramp, the paving work on that is complete. Unfortunately, we ran out of good weather to do chip seal. So the chip seal is not gonna happen until spring of 2019 when we get good weather for that. That means we're gonna do some temporary striping, center line on both Cable Road and Headley's Mill Road, because those will be getting, permanent striping once we can get the chip seal done. But after dark and especially in the rain, it's hard to see exactly where that is with the new pavement, so we'll get some temporary striping down. Mink Street Phase 2 project, the paving was completed today. We got the base course and the intermediate down. That's all we're gonna do for the first two phases. I anticipate that's gonna reopen here in the next couple of weeks. Still got some temporary striping to put down there, as well as some signing and some guardrails. So that should be, it's going well and should be open here again soon. Mink Street Phase 3, the signals you've probably noticed are operational. I don't think we've had any issues reported to date, so that's good. The grading was done on the lot and reseeded. There's a little bit of pavement work that was happening today, and they'll have a little bit more to do, hopefully yet this week. And there's some permanent striping that'll need to happen on the northeast corner, just some edge line. I'll probably wait till next year to finish that up. And the final thing that I have is railroad crossings. The railroad plans to do 2 crossings next week, Connors Avenue and Columbia Road crossings. They will be closing those each for 2 days and posting detours, and we'll be putting out public notice in the next couple days that will be happening next week. Aside from that, happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't wanna rain in your parade, but sometimes that signal at Mink doesn't, I was there, it was a couple mornings ago, it was green for about 5 seconds for Broad Street, and then it immediately went red, and then as I was driving, got through, when I was driving down, I could see back, yes, I was paying attention, I was being careful, but I could see back that it was then green till I got to Summit. So maybe it got fixed. I know that sometimes there's problems initially, but if I see any more, I'll just let you know,
I would appreciate that, yeah.
Yeah.
I will look into that, thank you.
Okay, for sure.
Yes, sir.
Alan, do you anticipate any extra costs as a result of the chip and seal being done this spring? Or savings?
There is, there's been a little extra cost reported by the contractor for the increase in price of the emulsion, the tar, which would total, I believe, around $7,500. The project on the whole right now is under budget. Don't know the exact number, but we're looking at, it's definitely under budget. more than
Even
20.
with the 7,500,
What's that?
even with the
It
7,500.
will definitely take care of the 2,500, or 7,500, yes. We will still be under budget with that. I wanna say we're 20,000 plus under budget right now, and we should maintain that.
I know I had asked a couple of times about, whether we thought that the ramp as a whole was coming out late and whether we thought that would affect our paving. The hope was that it would not. Obviously, it probably did.
Yes.
And I would say that, I know that the street committee and the administration is working together to get the ramp out sooner next year. I think you guys have changed how you did it. This year was a change in how you did it, and so.
We're hoping to have a resolution, next meeting if we can get the proposal finished up. If not, at the December 5th meeting, we're looking to have a resolution to move forward with design of next year's ramp.
Okay. Second question I have for you just involves readiness for winter and salt stores and identifying sources or anything else. Can you give me maybe a bit of an update?
Absolutely. At the end of last year, we, with our salt contract, we had some left, so we bought everything in our contract that we could, and our barns are currently full of salt. So we are ready to go on that end. With trucks, our new truck is scheduled to be here in about 2 weeks. We have another truck that's, the electronics are being updated. That should be here, should be finished in about 2 weeks. And then in early October, we started the general maintenance of all the trucks where we take them to the shop, just check them out and get anything taken care of. We have 2 in right now, including the brine truck. Those are gonna be back soon, and then we have 2 more to go in for that checkup and maintenance, and those should be back at about that same time, roughly 2 weeks. Everything is operational, we just send them every year to get checked out, make sure everything's good to go.
Good.
I just wanted to follow up on Tim's question, the extra striping, I assume that's ours also to perform? And do you know of any idea what that estimate is?
It's between 2,000 and 3,000.
And when, I'm gonna, again, this is, second question is very similar to Tim's. When we awarded this, I noticed that the contractor didn't start right away, obviously, and we got onto his schedule essentially. Was there anything within the contract that makes him obligated to complete within this year or work through, obviously he's got schedules too, but
Right.
at the same time, he's signed a contract that said he could get it done this year.
The agreement was signed on the 12th of July. We did not give the notice to proceed until August 28th. I think that we did that in an effort to assist with their schedule. So it's slightly unfortunate that they came back and said, well, now there's gonna be an extra cost for that.
Well, I call it more than unfortunate. I mean, I don't see it, I guess I see it a little differently, and maybe you guys have already gone through this discussion, but seems to me like they had plenty of time to perform all this work and didn't do so when we had a few good days. Anyhow, we'll leave it at that. Let me ask another quick question. On your on Graham Road subdivision improvements, I'm trying to understand what you're saying under B2. Can you explain a little bit of the Graham Road stormwater so that we can all understand what you're talking about the extension of the existing storm that we found?
Yes. So, of course, the original project, we know we have some flooding on Graham Road. We looked at the original project to put some storm sewer in where we did not realize there was storm sewer. So we started through the process of designing a project, and then it came to our attention from a gentleman that's been in the department for a while that evidently there's a storm sewer we did not know about, at least I did not know about, that was installed in 2002. Of course, with our GIS, we're starting to get all that stuff mapped so we know where the things are. So once we found out that was there, we had Strand, who was doing the design for that project, go ahead and model the project as it is to see what that would handle. The design year on a new storm system is a 5-year storm, and so we looked to see if it would carry the 5-year storm. It will not carry the 5-year storm. It would be above the 1 year and below the 5-year for what's existing. So then our approach that I'm proposing is, instead of spending the money on that project when there's already storm sewer there, is to extend the storm sewer from the point where there's the collection spot to the east, and that's where we're getting the water on the road. There's something there now, I think it's an old clay tile that's not collecting the water very well, so I want to put a couple of catch basins in there, upsize the pipe, so that the water that's coming from private property into the roadside ditch can actually get into that storm system, and see how well that works before we spend additional money. Do that work in-house, which we can easily do for relatively cheap before we spend any money on doing any major projects.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the extension, proposed extension will alleviate the flooding that is currently experienced on Graham Road? Is that what you're thinking will happen?
That's the hypothesis, yes.
Okay, I understand. All right, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
I assume Main Street's close to being done. What's the current status on Main Street?
I have not talked to AP
We
recently
have
on
an
that.
update from AEP and let you know. I haven't talked to him here within the last couple of weeks.
You mentioned striping, and the recent rainy weather with the pitch black nights and the glare on the road. And of course, I've asked before about striping. Any plans to stripe the new section on Summit? Side striping, ends of the road,
White lines?
What's that?
Edge line.
edge lines, edge line?
We put back what was there before. I didn't, I guess I really didn't think on much further than that. Are you saying that you think that's an issue, that we should have edge lines there on the?
Well, I've mentioned it on a lot of our little pieces that we've done with the new blacktop. It's very hard to see the edges of the road, whether you're going 10 or 15 or 25 or 35. These last few days, I mean, I found it really difficult, and if I'm finding it difficult, I'm sure other people are too, but I guess I'd like to see us, and we can have this conversation with the street committee or something, get on some type of, when you say I put it back to the way it was, I want you to put it back to the way you want it, safety wise and stuff, so, I think as we update our roads and redo them, edge lines, I think they're important, so.
Duly noted.
Okay.
I'd say on an average year, we spend 5,000 to 10,000 on striping. We've been focusing on getting stop bars where they're not stop bars and crosswalks and such. But I think we're starting to get caught up on some of that, so definitely we'll start looking at doing some edge lines.
I just think I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I think we should include it.
We're happy to talk to you about that.
What's that?
I said we can certainly talk about it.
Good, okay. Thank you. Anything else, Ralph? Yes, sir.
Alan, I'm sorry, I had a follow-up question. I looked at your report and it talked a little bit about, Oak Meadow, and I just wanna see, when you anticipate the bids being back.
We have not put that out to bid yet because we do not have the easement that is needed. We've been speaking with that resident, and actually BJ and I are meeting with him tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, hoping to get some resolution to that.
Can you refresh my memory, once that happens, you don't need anything from us to put them out, do you?
We already went and got authorization to bid from council here a couple meetings ago, so that we were ready as soon as we got that to get that out.
Any idea on what, I guess I'm kinda asking, do you think you'll have them by the end of the year?
That's the hope, if we can get this easement. That's the critical piece that I can't answer.
Be easy.
I'd hate to put this out to bid and run into a situation like, Mink or Main Street where we don't have that completed.
So what's our, what's the backup plan if this guy decides he's not gonna do the easement?
There are two alternative routes. We've been hoping this would work because it's the best one. There's an existing catch basin on Pat Haven Drive, a couple hundred feet to the south that we have not surveyed in to verify if that will work. Hopefully that would work. Or the property to the north, we could realign a catch basin and use the property to the north, provided that they are
Willing to give us an easement?
correct.
Obviously.
It's just very frustrating that this is now the second project that we've had where we thought we would have learned from the Main Street, I'd say fiasco, because that's, I don't know the way to describe that, but we would have learned, but we didn't.
We didn't put it out to bid because of that.
So what I'm saying, we have a project that is stopped because we don't have an easement, so I think we need to come up with a plan. I'm just gonna spitball this, other than getting easements. these projects need to get finished.
Mr.
I
Walter?
just wanted to talk to that. We did talk about the storm sewer being in the roadway a while back ago, although that would be a very expensive alternative. I think that I believe going and getting some kind of easement off of this gentleman is definitely the most economic way to do this. Certainly not going down the middle of the road would be, is preferable. I don't know of any other answers to provide.
And that's correct, is this certainly, all that property that, it needs to get to the creek, and all the property along the creek is privately owned. So to get there without going out and around down the road and everything does require to get an easement to do it.
Right.
Which there's already a storm drain that was put in years ago without an easement that's there, that's carrying this water, so.
All right, anything else for Alan? Okay. Mr. Fulton?
Thank you, Mayor. For ordinance 2018-4314, this is the Oberst McClellan rezoning. At the October 15th council meeting, there were some questions raised as to whether the language that was provided by Planning Commission as part of their recommendation and subsequently included in the ordinance is adequate to accurately convey the need for the fence along the eastern property line in terms of the L4 landscaping requirement. So to follow up on that, I reviewed the condition placed upon the recommendation by Planning Commission and looked through that, and it does accurately convey, it does cite the code section specifically, and does accurately convey that the fence needs to be installed on that eastern property line. The fence is to be 6 feet tall, 100% opaque, and then there is provisions for a tree every 30 lineal feet of fence and 4 shrubs for every 30 lineal feet of fence. The only variables would be that the fence could be vinyl, brick, stone, or wood. So other than that, it's pretty specific in terms of what needs to be done. So with that, I reviewed it and I've included the section of the code, part of my report, that details what L4 landscaping is. So from a planning and zoning department perspective, I think that the condition that's in the ordinance that reflects the recommendation of Planning Commission will achieve the goal of getting that fence and be specific enough in terms of what needs to be done. The other question came up in terms of a time frame to place upon that, and that would be at the pleasure of council. From a planning and zoning department perspective, it could be legislated as part of the rezoning. If it were to pass, that can be added as a condition. The only thing would be if council does deviate from the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission, it would have to be approved by council with a supermajority, so 2/3. The other option would be, and we've done this in the past, is to allow Planning and Zoning Department to enforce a time frame on the applicant, should this be approved, to install the fence. So those are kind of the options. From Planning and Zoning Department perspective, tree planting season is typically in the fall or the spring, so we're kind of getting out of the fall time for planting, so the next time would be spring. So by that point, maybe a June 1st deadline would be adequate to get that done, and Planning and Zoning could see up to a year. Anything beyond that it seems that's more than enough time to get the fence and the landscaping installed. The other thing is a high grass and weeds violation property lien. When a property is unmowed, the city has, the applicant or the property owner is notified, has 7 days to correct the issue. If the property is occupied, typically due to safety concerns, the Planning and Zoning Department will go through Mayor's Court to have that done. We don't feel comfortable sending a mowing crew out to a property that's occupied and then someone looks out the back door and someone's mowing the grass. So typically we'll pursue Mayor's Court for that. For vacant or unoccupied properties, we will have the property mowed. And what we do is we go and identify the problem. It has not been corrected. We'll have the property mowed, and we're to get the invoice. Then we're to add on administrative costs to that and come to council for approval of those administrative costs, plus the invoice for having the property mowed. Excuse me, we just got the invoice last week. So now we're working on calculating the administrative costs, and we'll be back to council later this month to move that forward with the cost for the property lien. Once council approves that, it's taken down to the county and placed on the tax record. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Barstow?
On that property, it's in your report, is that, you say vacant, is it a vacant lot or just a residence that's unoccupied?
It's vacant. Excuse me, used to have, used to have a garage on that has since been removed, so it's completely vacant.
Has anyone contacted, you said, I think this is the one where you said the owner is deceased as far as you can tell. Has anybody contacted probate court to see who, if anyone's been appointed as fiduciary for the estate, you can contact that person or the attorney for the estate and maybe try to not have to have this problem in the future?
Yes, we will definitely look into that angle. We've also looked into contacting the land bank, because if they're behind on their property taxes, the land bank can step in. So we will definitely look into probate court and see if we can get that resolved, just so we're not doing this every year.
Right, I suggest you contact probate, see if there's an estate open before we, to make sure we're not trampling on their feet. Thanks.
Anything else for Scott?
Sure.
Yes.
Scott, as it relates to the ordinance that's on the table, if we take that off the table this evening and we have a discussion and we decide to put a time frame on that, you mentioned that in your mind, that's going against what the planning board, I guess, said. So it would take a supermajority. Do you have a feel for if that's done, if that's gonna cause any problems? I mean,
No, and it would just be if the recommendation from planning commission isn't followed as they've recommended it. So if there's any deviation, such as adding an additional condition, then that's where we get the supermajority. From a planning and zoning standpoint, that would not be problematic. We would just need to amend the ordinance and add that second condition that the time frame is.
okay.
You mentioned that we could leave that up to planning, you guys to pick the time?
We could do that where we indicate that, that if it's approved, that it was approved, you have to install the L4 landscaping, and then you have until such and such time to do that. So we've done that in the past with other applications that we impose the time frame. If you were to get that fence permit, the fence permit's good for a year. So that's typically how we would go about it. You need to come in, get your fence permit, you have a year to install this pursuant to the approved ordinance, and then if he fails to do it, we move on from there.
Anything else for, yes, sir?
Just a quick question for Brian. Brian, if there's a condition put on this that must be met, the rezoning does not go into effect until that condition is met. It seems to me if we were gonna do that, we'd wanna do that through the legislative process and tie it to the rezoning to make sure there's some legislation behind saying it has to be done in order for that rezoning to take place.
That's the method I would recommend, and if you wanted to actually place it, council place that deadline on there so it's very clear and it's part of the legislation.
Okay, anything else? Thanks, sir. Lanier.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to start off and say that the Parks and Rec Department was awarded the ODNR NatureWorks grant in the amount of $68,579 for improvements in Liberty Park off Taylor Road. With those funds, we plan to, you see the concept, add a shelter, Eagle Scout's gonna place in a Gaga pit, add a path around, phase it out, add a path around both sides of the park, maybe a nature playground and also a separate play top. But amenities will come. On November 14th at 6:30, we'll have an open house here for those residents to come in so we can get some feedback to take back to OHM in hopes that we can develop a plan for the park starting in the spring. You guys received my car park project update. I met with Phil Metzler today, and with that project, we are merely going to take it from an education standpoint. We're not going to open up the garden plots in Car Park for rent. He's going to offer 5 different Veggie Series classes starting in January, in hopes that we can continue to get a little bit more feedback and possibly start some sort of committee in the future to help see a community garden in the future. Besides that, that's all I have. happy to answer any questions.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Lanier, I had asked JB this question, I just wanna make sure that on the plan, OHM looks like they're suggesting that that park, that extension to the paving
Mhm.
would be completed, the gravel parking lot.
Yep.
Are you confident that that is included in these numbers before we go ahead and not include that part as part of the budget?
Definitely confident that that $5,000 we discussed prior to, it was actually, I think, $15,000 project in the original CIP and reduce it to 5 as an in-kind type of a project, that we believe that we can get it done in-house pretty quickly.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Mr. Higgin?
I have two. I read your report today and I appreciated it. Can you, when you talk about the plots, the community plots for farming out back in Carr, you just said it looks like you're not gonna do it. Does that mean you're not going to plant them at all?
I am probably gonna continue to revitalize them. He did mention we're not going to plant them, just to say, hey, we're not gonna use them as any hands-on educational plots for 2019 right now. But he did mention that he will be willing to host a one-off session if we wanted to invite any local school districts, if we want to invite maybe an open house to be able to say, hey, if you guys would like to learn hands-on, plant, and harvest, we could do something in that manner. But for 2019, we do not anticipate opening it up for any type of renters.
Can you refresh my memory as to who he is?
Phil Metzler, he is a Licking County Master Gardener with OSU Extension.
Yep, that's one. The other one is, I understand you're having a public meeting for the significant upgrades to Liberty.
Yep.
There may be, I assume you're doing that because you've begun to get feedback from people that live close to Liberty.
Yes.
How are you reaching out to them? Instead of just saying we're having a meeting, are you contacting a homeowners association? Are you sending mail? Are you?
I contacted Kurt Niccolo, which is the HOA president, email, and also on social media. I'm a part of their Facebook thread. They came to a consensus that it was best to get the survey from OHM, that in which I did, and get the information to them via social media, and they would disperse the information to everyone in that residence.
Everybody, and I guess that would be Glenn?
Taylor Glenn.
Taylor Glenn?
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else for Lanier? Chief Brooks?
I have nothing tonight. Happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So, Chief, well, first of all, good job. You know what I'm talking about. Secondly, I had a nice compliment of the police department, Judge Bransell's courtroom last week during a hearing. Surprised to learn that the Granville Patrol Post doesn't have a canine. I would think that, given their mission, they would have a kennel over there, but they don't. But it was a nice compliment on, we got into a bit of a rabbit hole on how you summons a canine to a scene if needed, and the judge had a lot of questions about that, but Trooper Unteed from the Granville Post was said, oh, Pataskala does a nice job and is responsive when he can to help out, so, good job.
That's mostly Scott and Joker.
Yeah, I believe he was specifically mentioned, and Trooper Unteed was under oath, so, you know. at the time, so, Scott, you can take that to the bank.
Thank you.
Sure.
And it's on the record.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hear Joker got an early Christmas present. Does he have some body armor?
Oh, it's a body armor and a first aid kit specifically for dogs. So that was
Cool.
awesome.
That's wonderful.
That was a donation from a service agency, right?
Yeah.
Okay, saw that.
Very good.
Let's hope he never needs.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Anything for Chief? Any committee chair reports tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Higgins.
Last Wednesday, we had a utility committee meeting. It was the last one, obviously, as has been pointed out from Mr. Cooey. Committee met, first up was a briefing by Mr. Fox from Southwest Licking Sewer Community and Water. Their plan is progressing. They have an agreement in place with Licking Heights School District to, I believe what Mr. Fox told us might be slightly incorrect, but he talked about they're going to get sewer water to the site, and then Heights was going to pay for it to proceed north. but in reality, it's sewer. And I think I just found that out today. We'll have a chance to ask Mr. Fox this, because the committee asked him specifically to come back and talk to all of council at the December meeting. I like the fact that he's talking to the utility committee, and that's us, but, I don't want anything lost in translation, and so I want the council as a whole to be able to ask him questions and listen to his updates. They are very close to finishing Summit Road. He believes that their Licking Heights School District agreement will be in place by the end of the year, and they'll be finished delivering water to the site. Broadmoor Commons, which of course is up on Broad Street, they're in the process of finishing hookups to that. He also spoke about a significant site, one site that he has talked to council about, which is a well in the neighborhood of the National Trails Raceway, possibly even sinking 2 wells. The other one is a significant well field in Johnstown that they are looking at going after. Apparently it has, with tests, it has proved to be in a rather large amount of water available. And there were some questions back and forth about, what does that mean? I think those questions are best directed to him when we get a chance to talk to him. The final thing is that they did pay for a rate study, and probably within the next calendar year, they will implement the results of that rate study. It may not be exactly what the rate study said. The committee there is still attempting to figure out exactly how they want the rate changes to go. So he didn't feel comfortable telling us what it would be, and I don't blame him for that. I'm sure they'll have to hammer that out in open session before they figure out how their rates are gonna change. We talked a little bit about the operations and continuity with Nathan's departure. We had Chris Sharrock was here. I met with him once in kind of a transitional way, just as the chair of the utility committee. Chris was here for this meeting, and he will be taking over, at least he will be the acting utility superintendent. Beginning Thursday, is that Nathan's official departure date?
Being Friday.
Friday. We did take note of the fact that now with Nathan's position being posted, there's also 2 field techs that are in the process of being awarded. You wanna jump on that, BJ? and
Yeah,
help me
they've
out?
been hired already. They passed their background checks, both drug and criminal. So those 2 have been hired, and they will start next week. So they'll be working together, also shadowing the existing crew to learn the ins and outs. In about 6 weeks, we'll be able to turn them loose on the on-call rotation as well.
Excellent. We talked a little bit about the move of the utility department to the town hall, just to talk about making sure that the administration is still keeping their fingers on the pulse of that. I think that the general, don't hold their feet to the fire, but the goal would be to move into the town hall and have it ready for the utility department roughly 2 months after the police department vacates it. We talked a little bit about the money that had been allocated in the budget for that. Obviously, that's gonna be something that's gonna have to take place, and it'll be probably quickly on the plate of whoever we put in that position. So I wanted to have a little bit of an open discussion about that. Finally, probably the most in-depth discussion was based around the utility rates and how they may change in the upcoming year. I think everybody on council got a chance to see the graphs of the depleting funds. Those funds are being depleted for a wide variety of reasons. Sometimes it's debt service, and sometimes it's the cost of what it takes us to treat water or sewer. But the initial discussions were had about probably implementing a rate change in sometime in 2019. Would start in the utility committee. Mr. Nicholson is putting numbers together for us. And I think we're at this point, we're kind of in the position of, okay, let's say we bump it this much. How does that affect all the lines? Obviously, the utility committee will have, whether it's me chairing it or somebody else, that'll be a very in-depth discussion with a goal to have something in place somewhere around April. That's not the change implemented, but that's the having council feel comfortable with, this is where we kind of think we're going. The implementation technically would not take place until 2020, because I think we're okay budgetarily for 19. I, as always, I welcome the other committee members. If you think I've missed something, please feel free to keep me honest and jump in. That's a lot of information.
Judge, I think one of the reasons for depletion of lines is obviously the cost of maintaining, repairing, pumps and other things that go bump in the night. That's a big cost too.
Sure. Good point. Aging infrastructure.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a point very well taken. So, if you're on, we'll all be on council as we begin the new year. Look for some discussions coming down the pike, and for us to having to make a decision about how we proceed in that area.
Alan, are you happy with the Summit Road water project as it relates to the condition of the roads and the ditches and all that good stuff? The drainage issue, anything?
They've been doing a decent job. I haven't heard too many issues. I know they'll be get back for final restoration most likely in the spring on some of that. They've put straw down to, help with the erosion, but they're gonna have to do some more before they're finished up.
Thank you. Is that anything else?
Nothing for me unless anybody has any questions.
Got a question for, okay, you have a committee chair report. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I do. I have a street committee report from the 22nd of October. We had 2 items on our list to discuss. The first item was the Licking Heights traffic analysis that was done. It was unfortunately the October 16th report that we had to review. We had subsequently been given another report dated October 22nd, I believe, that day, that we did not have a chance to review. We did get a presentation from the traffic engineer that represented the Licking Heights School District. And I think there were some initial questions back and forth between the 2 studies, but really we didn't have a chance to have Alan or Scott from Hull to review that. So that was about all for the first item on the agenda. The second agenda item was in the 2019 ramp. And we passed a motion. We evaluated the list that Alan had provided us for some different options of what roads were pressing, I guess, items that should be on the 19 project list. We passed a motion that would actually increase the budget line item from $675,000 to, I think, roughly $783,000 plus or minus. But we have a list that Alan has now of the roads and options, I guess, that we had felt were important. So we made a motion to move that forward. And with that, I'll take any questions. And Suzanne, please help me on that. I wasn't prepared to make one, so did I miss anything on that?
Good.
Good.
When that happens, when the ramp changes, does that have a corresponding change in the line item of the budget? And has the budget been changed?
Since the first reading on that, no, we've not made any changes to it. We can easily amend it in 2019 to a supplemental, if that's council's preference. We can amend it now if you wish, when we get to that piece of legislation.
I would say do it in 2019 based on what the bids come in, and then amend it for the amount over what we need to meet what the bids are.
Yeah, that's what we've done in the past, is waited, because sometimes
It's different.
they're different.
Probably the cleanest way of doing it.
Okay.
Anything else for Andy? Any other committee chair reports? All right, seeing none, unfinished business. Ordinance any desire to take 2018-4314 off the table?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move we take ordinance 2018-4314 off the table.
Got a motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion and roll.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Picken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Ordinance 2018-4314.
Discussion phase.
What's that?
we have
You
had
just-
3 readings.
We've had 3 readings, okay. So it's off the table and ready for discussion.
Yes.
Very good.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
based on what we heard earlier, I'd like to make a motion to amend by substitution ordinance 2018-4314 to include the line, with a deadline of July 1st, 2019 to complete the L4 zoning requirements.
Okay, have a motion. I need a second.
Second that.
What's that?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Walther. Discussion on the amendment.
I have one little discussion, and it's for Kathy, and it's, does that, as we think, or maybe BJ, as we think about this legislation, can that easily be added correctly the way I put it?
It can easily be added, and then it will be scheduled for a 4th reading on November 19th.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Picken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Very good. Motion passes. We'll be seeing that one on the 19th. Ordinance 2018-4325 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Higgins, seconded by Mr. Barstow. Kathy, when you're ready.
ordinance 2018-4325. This is the second reading, an ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Pataskla, state of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019, and to authorize approved interfund transfers.
Discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we amend ordinance 2018-4325 by substitution.
Got a motion to amend?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion? And roll on the motion to amend.
Hayes,
Yes.
Picken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
and Barstow.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Any discussion? Seeing none. Ordinance 2018-4326 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Walther. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2018-4326, this is the second reading, and ordinance amending ordinance 2017-4301, establishing the allocation of income tax collections received by the city of Pataskla pursuant to ordinance 2010-3959.
Discussion? Ordinance 2018-4328 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Walther. Kathy, when you're ready. Take a deep breath on this one.
Ordinance 2018-4328, this is the second reading, and ordinance to amend the Pataskla Schedule of Fees.
Discussion? Okay, on to new business. Ordinance 2018-4329 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Hayes. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2018-4329, this is the first reading, and ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
Discussion? Okay, on to resolutions. Resolution 2018-052, resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for the Nature Works Grant Award for improvements to Liberty Park and to execute all agreements related to this acceptance.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Hayes. Discussion? And roll.
Walter,
Yes?
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Pickens,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Again, congratulations, Lanier. Resolution passes, by the way. Resolution 2018-053, a resolution authorizing and directing the great mayor of the city of Pataskala to enter into an employment agreement with James M. Nicholson to continue serving as finance director.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just briefly, congratulations to the city and Jamie for continued service. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we better see what happens. Go ahead, Kathy.
Saying that.
Yes, I'm confident.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Pickens,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Congratulations, sir. Any other motions tonight? All right, additional citizens' comments.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Under D, under other, I had before had wanted to add, to do this during the round robin, but I realized that, it may have to be done before citizens' comments, so, under other new business, I guess I would, I guess the first question I have, and this comes directly from the citizens' comments this evening, is, if a special meeting is held, by any board of the city, are the people that sit on that board not entitled to the regular compensation?
Can I just throw something in? When I was on PBR, we got paid, I was either $25 or $50, whether, we typically had a meeting a quarter, but sometimes we needed special meetings. We had, I know when we hired a police officer, we had a couple extra meetings. We had to have a meeting for the proctor of the test, we got paid for that. So I'm not sure why Mr. Platt felt that he wouldn't be, that he and his board wouldn't be paid if they had a meeting. I never was told of a cap or a.
As far as I'm aware of, we've never had a situation where a board's met that they haven't been compensated, at least since I've been here.
Yeah, as I say, PBR, we were programmed to have 4 meetings once a quarter, but I remember one year we had, I don't know, 7 or 8, I think. Especially with the police, hiring the police officer, we had to have a couple extra meetings, I know, so.
As part of the budget process, we built it enough to accommodate special meetings across all the boards.
Okay.
So they will get paid.
That was,
Yeah, do you have anything?
No, Mr. Lee has.
yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Lee had a question.
I just wondered
Are you finished?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm
Mr. Lee, go ahead.
if we could ask Mr. Platt if we've got any questions, could he come back up and maybe he knows, is that doable?
Is this the appropriate time to do that or not?
Look, he's a city employee and a chairman of the board, so I'm not,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I plan to come up under.
Is it council's pleasure to bring up Mr. Platt? Yes, Kathy, hang on.
I would need to go back and look at our current ordinance on the compensations for boards and commissions, but I believe there was at least 24 meetings that were paid per year, a limit of 24. I don't recall whether that was ever changed in our last revision or not, but I don't believe so.
Which they have 12 regular meetings per year.
I guess, I just wanted to ask Mr. Platt why he felt that that was the case. Maybe he can explain that if he's allowed to come up. Because I would certainly think that he would get paid for that.
It's the council's pleasure to have Mr. Platt. Okay, come on up, Rob.
So I was gonna come up under additional citizens' comments.
That's why I wanted to have this conversation first.
Like assurance, I can come back up later.
You can.
Yeah, so after the August BZA, meeting, as you're aware, the board ultimately tabled the Licking Heights application. It was made clear to me afterwards that the, BZA was in the wrong for doing that. That they,
By who, sir? Who told you that? It's a public meeting.
I understand it is, and I'm not, so my concern is for our board to get compensated because we were told, I was told after the August meeting that during that meeting, we considered tabling it. Okay? I'm sorry. We considered holding a special meeting, okay? In an effort to try to accommodate the school district. After discussion with staff, trying to figure out the timing, it really wasn't gonna save them but a couple of days. So the school district said, well, that's okay, we'll just meet at your next meeting. Mr. King made it clear to me that had we moved forward that, he would see to it that we would not be compensated because we were in the wrong for, what we had done in tabling it. In tabling it. So, I don't come before you trying to cause problems, I just simply want assurance and clarity that if the BZA feels the need, especially in an effort to try to accommodate an applicant and hold a special meeting, they should be compensated for doing so just as they normally would, in my opinion.
I
Just want a
assume,
clarification.
I assume the discussion from council that you've heard up here.
And I thank you for that clarification.
Assuages those two.
Yes, it does.
Mr.
Thank
King?
First of all, I'll say I never made those comments. I'm not the one who decides who gets paid for what. Boards and commissions are paid per what our ordinances are. It's not my call who gets paid. If they have special meetings, they get paid for it. I would never say that to a board.
I think we've cleared it up. You guys are gonna get paid.
I appreciate the clarification.
Okay.
Which, thanks, I don't, this is not very good, Mr. Platt, but now it occurred, and then from Kathy's well-timed comment, that there may be an ordinance that limits how many times a board can get paid. Correct, Kathy, is that correct?
I believe so. The first piece of legislation establishing these regulations with the boards and commissions included up to 24 meetings. That was at the beginning of the merger. We've had one amendment to that since then, so I would need to really go back and look at that to see if that remained in place when we amended it the last time.
Can you do that for us and let us know what,
Sure.
if it's different for different boards, because as I say, PBR,
It's the same for all boards and
Okay.
commissions.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to know that
I'd like to
information.
know, I would not, as a former board member, I wouldn't want.
Originally, when they had that limitation, it was for planning and zoning and BZA. Later, they added all the other boards and
Okay.
commissions all under that
Okay,
piece of legislation.
okay,
So I really need to look at it again
thank you,
to verify it. but
thank you, thanks for bringing that up.
I know it was in there originally.
Okay, that's great, thanks.
Mr. Hickman?
To be clear though, if it says 24 and they've had 12, they're not gonna have 12 special meetings before the end of the year. So at least for the purposes of that part of the discussion.
They're gonna
Now,
be taken care of. Yeah.
perhaps we want to address that,
Right.
for the
I
future.
will get council a copy of the legislation pertaining to boards and
Thanks,
commissions and how they're compensated.
Okay, Mr. Lee.
Tom?
Did you have something? I've already asked one. Did you have
Go
something?
ahead.
I just wanted to see if Brian wanted to weigh in. I mean, or if anybody wanted to weigh in. It seems like we're under a time crunch here as far as the meeting on the 13th versus the 12th. I'm not sure that I understand all that, but do they, first off would be, do they have legal representation? And I guess Mr. Platt's concerns, I wanna make sure those get addressed as the BZA chair.
We're fine from a legal position in that appeal.
Okay. All right.
Meaning that they have the representation through you and there is no conflict.
Correct.
I just wanna make sure.
Okay.
And don't worry, nothing adverse is going to happen to the city under my watch because we miss a deadline or forget to file something. I will promise you that.
That wasn't my intent, Brian.
Oh, no, I just wanted
wanna make
everyone to
sure-
know. I
Yeah.
have all the deadlines down. I know what's going on.
I
We'll
think
be
it's
good.
important, you know, these people, I'm not taking sides in this by any means, but what I'm saying is, you know, we have people volunteering to serve on these boards. And we want, no matter what, even if we agree or disagree with them, they still need to feel like they have that protection. So that's why I wanted to make sure that they knew that they did. And, you know, if we're gonna get people to come in and volunteer to do these things, I mean, they shouldn't have to worry about whether they're gonna get paid for an extra, I mean,
I just, I wanna make sure that they realize that we've got their back and they're gonna get paid for a stinking meeting, I'm sorry.
I couldn't agree more.
No, absolutely. That was my rant, sorry.
All right, I think we were originally with you there, Tim. Anything else?
That was, technically, that was D other under new business, so I
Okay.
think we can move forward, and I still will probably say something that I would,
Under
we all are you, so.
Sure, okay. All right, we'll move on to additional citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak, you have 3 minutes, and it would be about a topic that we have discussed here this evening. So, anybody wish to speak?
I do.
Just for the record, name and address again.
Rob Platt, still 371 Woodside Drive, here in the great city. Didn't really get through everything in 5 minutes the first time, so I guess moving forward, as I said, it's been said to me that there was a failure of the BZA. I don't believe that, obviously. Not just for a bit. I believe the BZA did the right thing and represented the city well, and I think we all put a lot of effort into that. You all put a lot of effort into it. I guess my concern is, I shared with you last week that 2506 appeal was not litigation. You went into G3 for pending litigation. Be that as it may, I guess I want to know, in my opinion, we had September 11th is when the BZA Act. On October 29th is when you all decided to convene and try to come up with a solution for this, what I'm gonna call phantom litigation. Be that as it may, at least 6 weeks went by. The BZA was never once contacted. Hey, what are your concerns? What can we do to address them? How can we move it forward? No, the school district, administration, law director, staff. So I read Dr. Wagner's letter and I say, we wasted 6 weeks of you all's time trying to put efforts together, right, to come up with a solution, which I'll say again, I said last week, I thought was great. The procedure, process was terrible. You can't come up, settle a lawsuit that doesn't exist, but, you know, at least you could have come back to the BZA. But so now we've got this interesting conundrum with the schools, the BZA does. Again, it would be nice to have some sort of legal representation at the 13th meeting of the BZA for some direction. But again, what do we do next time? Somebody has an application, the BZA denies it, cites their findings of fact. I would hope that somebody would say, hey, why don't you sit down with the BZA, or a couple of them, less than a majority, and maybe understand their concerns, maybe you can adjust your application accordingly. That did not happen in here, so there was a failure somewhere. At the very least, you guys should, where did that failure start? What advice did you get? What needs to change next time? I would also say, I hear you, Brian, but it's a question of quality of representation. No communication at all. How do you have a client that you're representing that you don't communicate with? So, and then I would also say,
1 minute, Rob.
Appreciate that. The, two related, one related issue and one unrelated. The, Charter Review Commission, next time it meets, I think ought to look at, alternates for the BZA. They don't exist. Probably should have brought it up the last time we convened it, because I think it was somewhat recently, but I think it'd be wise to have 1 or 2 alternates. We should always have a 5-member BZA if possible. I think it's beneficial when you see how big these applications can be that we consider. So I think we work hard and do a good job and apply the city zoning code appropriately. But it would be nice to have people to fill in when people can't be there. And I would, since I'm under citizens' comments, I would congratulate Mr. Crawford, because I too have written nature work grants. I'm assuming he wrote it himself or is heavily involved with it. They are very lengthy. They are difficult to write. They suck, to be honest, if I had to be honest with you, but to get that approved is an accomplishment, so congratulations. So I have nothing further. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Anita Rolfe, 12520 Refugee Road, Southwest Pasco. I feel like we're dancing around this. From what I've heard tonight and heard previously, Mr. Zetz is representing you guys and representing, theoretically, the BZA. But if no one comes to talk to you about the legalities and any questions you might have about the legalities, are you really being represented? And if I were in their shoes, and I was, even if Mr. Zetz shows up on the 11th, and I've got to absorb this and process it and make decisions overnight, I'm not gonna be a happy camper. And Mr. Lee said it exactly right, and I watched Ms. Carter's language over here, body language. You are cutting the legs out from under these people. If you want quality people to show up, this is not the way to get it done. If the BZA does not feel comfortable that Mr. Zetz is getting the job done, then you need to give them somebody that they feel comfortable with and that they trust that they're gonna represent the BZA separate from you folks, because after all, the BZA is separate from you folks. I feel really bad for them. I'm gonna feel really bad when some of them resign and say, you know what, I didn't sign up for this. And then people come in that have no history of this, and now they're making really quick decisions without the foundation to do it, and they'll just cave. So I'm just saying to you, slow this train down. What is the rush? If the school district wanted to do something along this line, they shouldn't have been dragging their heels, and then their lack of preparation became your emergency. So please, please help this board out, because right now, it looks to me like you haven't intentionally. I mean, sure, it's not intentionally, but bottom line is, they're being undercut. So thank you for my time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll go roundy round, and we'll start with Suzanne.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the Heights boys. They just carried themselves really well, and I guess that's coming from you. Their coach was lovely, and the kids were really lovely. And it was really it's nice to see young men carry themselves well, and they did a nice job. Proud of Tyler Hampshire. He did a nice job speaking this evening, and I always enjoy hearing about the cookie walk. So Sarah's quite a steward. She's really a great contributor to our community. I'm gonna miss Nate and all of the good things he brought to our community. And finally, Lanier, nice job with the grant. Thank you for that. That's all I have.
Mrs. Carter?
Lanier, that's outstanding. Congratulations. It's really great for us, so that's awesome. Obviously, I'm always proud of my Hornet boys, but this is an exceptional set of young men, so it's fun to be there to watch them play and go through their year. So I'm really glad they got to come in tonight and see everyone and be recognized. Are we having a Veterans Day program?
Yep, I'll be announcing that when it gets down to me.
Okay.
You wanna know right now?
Okay. Well, I was just curious because it's just around the corner, so that's all I got. Thank you.
Mr. Barstow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would echo the comments of Mr. Carter, Ms. Hayes, to Lanier, and everyone, especially to Tyler as an Ohioan whose family has deep roots down Southeast Ohio. It's always nice to see folks come down there and help them. But good job, and especially on the very nice young men from Heights. And I will say, Mr. Hicken, you're a beautiful man, but you're even more beautiful in Lion. I want to say a couple of things about Mr. Platt's comments. First of all, I disagree. An appeal is litigation. it's people arguing about something, that's what litigation is. And so I think that I think it was fine for us to go into executive session to discuss that appeal. As a former board member, not a BZA, but the PBR, I understand, and I think that that I can understand how the BZA would feel. We're trying to undercut them or usurp their authority or whatever, however you want to put it. But that's one of the reasons that I stopped participating in that aspect of it, because I think that is a separate situation. I don't know what's going to go on with the appeal. I don't know if Heights, now that they've decided to go ahead and build their school without the BZA approval, is going to dismiss their appeal. I don't know what they're going to do. I think that's up to them. I would encourage Mr. Zetz and Mr. King to work with BZA and try to assist them in this appeal. I don't think there's necessarily a conflict. Mr. Zetz represents the city, not the council. So I think it's okay on that aspect of it. But I think that, as I said at the special meeting, no good deed goes unpunished. And I think the council's heart was in the right place, but I think that procedurally, I disagreement with other members of council, but I think that I'm glad that an agreement didn't come about. I have to say, I regret, to a certain extent, having participated in it, although I think that in trying to come up with an agreement, although I was trying to do the right thing as I thought, but I can say for me that I think that I'm not going to engage in that sort of activity again where we have a decision of the board, unless some of these board decisions do come to us for appeal, as we just did tonight with not necessarily an appeal, but planning and zoning. We do get review some things. That's in our charter. That's proper. But we have an independent board that's made a determination, and I think we need to respect that and work with the process. And I do agree with Mr. Platt on some of the reforms we need to do. We have charter commission that doesn't come up now for several years, I don't think. But to look at composition of the BZA, where appeals go, who can appeal a BZA decision. Some communities allow the city council to appeal a BZA decision that they do not agree with. So I think there's just some things we need to look at. Where will come of that, I don't know. But that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Higgins.
I'd like to thank Mrs. Begra for coming in and interviewing, as it were. I'd also like to welcome Ms. Devine. Wonderful to have you here. I'd like to say that wearing this jersey gets easier. It does not. With that said, hope springs eternal when it comes to the next version of that game. It seems like when it comes to the Lincoln Heights situation, we are now in a position where we're going to have to respond in some way, shape, or form to what we've been notified by the school district, what has been told to us by the school district. I would envision possibly having an executive session at the next meeting to just discuss how the whys and wherefores of moving forward vis-a-vis the letter that we received. When it comes to whether or not I thought that we should have tried to solve a problem, I did, and so I don't think anything was improper in attempting to solve it. But that ship has sailed and it's water under the bridge, so I don't have anything else to say about that. Just, I think look for us to probably have an executive session at the next council meeting, because we at least should respond and talk about possible litigation on our part or pending litigation. So that's not too obtuse. And that's all for me.
Okay, Veterans Day is Monday, November 12th, at 1 p.m. at Veterans Green. Okay.
Sad I won't be there.
I'm sorry?
I'm sad I won't be there.
That's the day that American Legion picked and the Boy Scouts picked. So they're the ones that pretty much run the deal, so I'm going with the flow. 1 o'clock in the afternoon at Veterans Green.
Is there any councils,
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that, it would be nice if in the future we would consider having it at a time where more people could participate. Cause it's difficult to come down and, it's obviously a ceremony that I usually attend and I like to be part of. But when it's in the middle of a workday, that's not possible, so.
And again, some of these, if you'll look, there's, I know Memorial Day is always Memorial Day, and it's supposed to be right at noon. There's some protocol to that. In this case, this is what the American Legion picked. Also, the Boy Scouts were camping that weekend and could not be available until Monday, and they're part of our flag raising ceremony and all that good stuff. So I try to work with everybody, and if we could have everything at 5 or 6 o'clock. Well, of course, now with the time change, that wouldn't even work. It would be pitch black by the time we all got down there. So it's just not working this time, so I do the best I can. Mr. Zatz? Nothing. Mr. Walther?
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to first say, I echo everything Suzanne said. Congratulations, Lanier, and so forth. Secondly, I said this privately to Alan, and I want to say this publicly for everybody. I think the work that Alan did and that Scott Hayes did, trying to keep up with the reviews and how quickly they had to occur and the communication that was done was excellent. So appreciate your work on that. I know you probably spent hours that you didn't get compensated for. So appreciate your help with that, and please let Scott know that also. Additionally, I want to say again, as others have, the boards that we have are exceptional. The people that are on them are exceptional and passionate about things. And I think that's a good thing for any city, especially ours. So thank you, Rob, and I want to say thank you to the board members that are out there, from the park board to the PBR. It's great having boards like that, and thank goodness we have great people who want to be a part of that. So thank you.
Mr. Powell?
I just want to echo what Andy just said about the boards. I don't want any of them to think for a second that we don't have their back and don't support what they do. I mean, you guys you're not on these boards because you're professionals or because we hired you to do, a job out of expertise. You guys are just trying to make a positive impact in your community on a volunteer basis. So I want you guys to know that we support you. And sorry if we made you feel otherwise. Just want to make that clear. Lanier, congratulations. When the park levy didn't pass, we kind of thought, I don't know what's going to happen, but you're crushing it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well said, Mike.
Very good.
I echo also pretty much everything that everybody said up here. I think it's very important that our board members know that they're appreciated, we have their back. We're not always going to agree on everything. This was a very unique situation. I certainly, in my short time on council, have never been a part of that, where, you're on one side, absolutely we want a school, but, also BZA did their job too, and they brought up some valid points. That's all we were trying to do, was to come up with a good solution for both sides to get the school, and address the safety concerns. I hate to see it divide any of us. I certainly hope that your board or any board doesn't feel that way, and there's been times when we can't fill board positions, and I think Mr. Roth said it as well. We've got to make sure that these people know that they are appreciated and that we need them to step up. So hate to see that become jeopardized because of one situation, but that's probably not going to be the last time we disagree. But we need to stay united, and they need to know we support them. On another note, congrats. It's awesome. I also want to say that I took video of that right there at celebration and the reading of the resolution. And my son, who will be a freshman football player at Watkins next year, will watch it every night. So,
Will you send it to?
I will send it to you, and
I have a son who's gonna be a senior, so
I
next year.
will put it on repeat on his whatever
Public service
Under his
announcement.
pillow.
under his pillow. But I will have to say, he's big, born and raised Watkins Warrior. Coach Waters is an impressive guy. He really is. I went to the Rotary breakfast, listened to him speak. Just a class act. And I've only met him a few times, but I congratulate you. But hopefully next year.
Forewarned.
I'm not forewarned. No, I'm not going there. I'm just saying, hopefully at some point on my time on council.
I won't join the bed, I'm just saying.
I motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn? Need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Barstow, discussion and roll.
Barstow?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Hicken?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
And Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Put your chairs down, Mr. Carter will yell at you and make you wear clothes.
Hornets jerseys for everybody next week.
All the way.